Hello and welcome to another episode of the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast. As always, I'm your host, Connor Moreno, lead writer for UCLA Bruins on SI. And today we're just going to talk about UCLA's remaining schedule, how UCLA's opponents did in Week 8 alongside UCLA, who beat Maryland. And I thought that we could maybe update our predictions. I think we can make this a weekly prediction. I think 2 weeks ago, maybe before the Maryland game, or even before the Michigan State game, I went ahead and looked back at my predictions and made some new predictions on UCLA's season. So far, it's looking good. I got Michigan State and Maryland correct. I did predict that UCLA would beat both of them, so I thought we should look back at it, kind of go week by week and see if I can, continue predicting this season. Because let's face it, UCLA is looking a lot better every single week. They're proving that it's not a fluke. They're proving that they're not one-hit wonders. They're now three-hit wonders. But also UCLA's opponents are getting much better also. Their schedule remains the toughest in the nation according to ESPN FPI. They don't have 4 ranked opponents anymore on the remaining schedule like they did last week. USC and Nebraska lost, but we're going to talk about them more when we get to them. So I'm going to go through each remaining opponent, kind of lay out how they did this week, and then give my prediction for when they match up with UCLA. So without further ado, let's get into it. Excuse the now you can see my background. Sorry about that. Too much strain on your hardware. Okay, whatever. So up next on UCLA's schedule, we have the number 2 Indiana Hoosiers. Obviously, we know Indiana, one of the top teams in the nation, proving week in, week out that they are, in fact, a really, really good football team. They just keep on climbing. They won their 7th straight game. They beat Michigan State 38-13, and they moved into number 2 on the AP Top 25. This is their highest ranking, and ever since the beginning of the season, they just kept on rising. They entered this week as number 3, and they made it to number 2. So Indiana, obviously, is UCLA's next opponent. The Bruins and the Hoosiers are 2 of the hottest teams in the Big Ten, which is crazy to say, especially considering how UCLA's season started. And they're both going to be playing on Fox's big noon kickoff. Really, really early game again. UCLA had an early game against Michigan State last week at 9 a.m. Pacific, and they're going to be kicking off again at 9 a.m. Pacific against Indiana. The big noon kickoff pre-show starts at 7 a.m. Pacific, so Bruins fans are going to want to be getting up early for this game. ESPN gives UCLA a 3.8% chance to win this game, and I'm going to go ahead and agree with ESPN. I do think that UCLA is gonna drop this game. I don't think they have this big of an upset over them. So UCLA loses this game. They drop to 3-5, which gives them a little bit more room to try and get that bowl game. But the room that we're talking about is it's getting smaller. So I do think that UCLA loses to Indiana. They dropped to 3-5, 3-2 in the Big Ten. And then after Indiana, UCLA goes on a bye, and then they come back from that bye in 2 weeks to take on Nebraska. Previously ranked number 25, it was their first ranking of the season, but they lost on the road to Minnesota 24-9. Dylan Raiola got sacked 9 times. It was a really, really bad loss, which is why not only did they drop out of the top 25 rankings, they didn't receive a single vote. There's people who are out of the top 25 that also received votes, and this loss against Minnesota was enough for voters to just completely disregard them. So Nebraska drops to 5-2, 2-2 in the Big Ten, and they take on UCLA in 2 weeks. Now, a lot can change before that happens. UCLA could maybe, they could lose against Indiana, come back in a week and kind of regroup. I think Nebraska takes on 2 different opponents before they match up again with UCLA, which is unbelievable to even fathom. I guess not, because they don't have a bye, but I do think that this is a very important game for UCLA, assuming Nebraska isn't ranked again. I don't think they will be. Honestly, the optics of UCLA playing like 3 straight ranked opponents would be crazy. But I do think that UCLA can come out. They're hosting Nebraska in the Rose Bowl. I do think that they can come out and win this game. So my prediction is that UCLA wins. They improve to 4-5 on the season, 4-2 in the Big Ten, and are just 2 wins away from getting a bowl game bid. Now, as we look on to the rest of their schedule, that bowl game bid is not going to be easy, because right after they have the number 1 team in the nation, Ohio State, on the road. It was another dominant week for Ohio State. They received 60 of the 66 first place votes in the AP Top 25. And that's because they dominated Wisconsin on the road 34-0. Indiana's creeping as one of the best teams in the nation, but it's kind of undeniable that Ohio State has really separated themselves as the best team in the nation since they beat Texas in Week 1. This is probably the lowest chance that UCLA has on the season. ESPN gives them a 2.2% chance to win, and I'm going to agree with that also. I do think that UCLA is going to lose this game. They're going to lose their, fifth game? It would be their 6th game. So UCLA would be losing their 6th game, and they have to win out if they want to get a bowl game and complete this pretty improbable turnaround. I do think that UCLA loses to Ohio State, drops to 4-6, 4-3 in the Big Ten, and then their backs are against the wall the rest of the season. But they can't really rest, because right after they have a really good Washington Huskies team. Washington, they won 2 straight, but then they went on the road to Ann Arbor, lost to Michigan 24-7. Washington, they got 36 votes for the top 25 last week, and this week they didn't get any. So much like Nebraska, the loss was too harsh for any voters to keep them in mind. But UCLA does play against the Huskies in the Rose Bowl, so I do think that is a really encouraging thing that UCLA players and fans and coaches can look forward to, because UCLA has been pretty good at home, especially since Tim Skipper took over. ESPN gives them a 26.6 chance, the Bruins, to beat Washington. And you know what? I want to say UCLA wins this game. That's going to be my prediction. I do think that UCLA can come out with this win and be 1 win away from starting 0-4 and getting a bowl game bid. So, and that would be just a tremendous story. So I do think that my prediction is going to be for UCLA to win this game, improve to 5-6 and 5-4 in the Big Ten. And then boy, oh boy, what a story do we have ahead of that as UCLA goes on the road to take on USC in the Coliseum in the final game of the season. Really quickly, USC, they went ahead and lost to number 13 Notre Dame and dropped out of the AP Top 25, but they were number 26 because they received 97 votes. But anyways, rivalry week, final game of the season, UCLA has a bowl game bid on the line, and what a story that they'd be playing USC in my predictions to get that bowl game and complete a turnaround. The series has been split in the last few years between the Bruins and USC, but an interesting factor is that the away team has won each of the last 4 games. So if that pattern can continue, that means that UCLA finishes the season 6-6 and gets into a bowl game after starting 0-4. But I'm going to say USC wins this game. I just don't see a world where UCLA can be good enough to beat USC, especially on the road. It's going to be difficult, but I'm sorry to UCLA fans who might feel away from me thinking that, but that's just the way I see it. So, yeah, that's going to be it for my predictions. I do predict that UCLA will finish the season 5-7 and then 5-4 in the Big Ten, which is, honestly is really good, especially considering the season that they had. Although it would be the same record as last season, I think it's a much more improbable turnaround. So, yeah, that's going to be my predictions. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening to the UCLA Bruins Insider Podcast, and we'll see you tomorrow.